Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. What is January 22nd, 2018. I'm Break ECPK, of course, and you're tuning into the Breakdown Daily Recap. And once again, we have plenty to go over today. Mainly, it's going to be about ESL One Genting. Of course, previewing that event. It starts essentially about 10 hours from now as I'm recording this, so later on tonight. So obviously, going to look forward to that, kind of preview it, go over what to expect. A couple of other bits and pieces of news information as well, including a big sale announcement of a couple of organizations in the esports world, as well as an update to ESL One Catalyze in the qualifiers, that last chance qualifier specifically. But before we talk about that, again, starting with the ESL One Genting 2018, that starts tonight. The event that it's going to be, this should really be one of the better events of the season so far, if not the best, honestly. It's setting up that way, at least. This is a minor event, ultimately, but it is a little bit bigger prize pool. They decided to invest extra $100,000, essentially, so it's going to be a $400,000 prize pool, and because of the bump in the prize pool, it's also an increase in the circuit points that are available. Usually, it's only 300 for a lot of the minors so far, pretty much every minor. It's actually 400 points are going to be on the line for the minor this time around. As you can see up top, it'll be 200 for the first place team. Again, normally 150 for the other minor. So it's not the biggest difference. It still is enough to, be that much more meaningful. And I think in this case, the money is that much more meaningful. Again, $100,000 more on the line compared to just 100 more points, but still. A lot is on the line here. It's a 16-team tournament. Of course, we initially had the 8 invite teams, and then we had the 8 qualified teams. So it broke down like this. The invited teams that were invited to the event, we're looking at Virtus Pro, Liquid, Newbie, Mineski, Evil Geniuses, Secret, Vici Gaming, and Fnatic. So those are the 8 invited teams. Teams that had to qualify and did so in their expected regions: LFY, VGJ Thunder, Penta Sports, Planet Dog, Navi, TNC, Complexity, and SG Esports. So China and Europe did have a couple of open spots for their qualifiers, and then the rest, again, just one spot: CIS, Southeast Asia, North America, and South America. So that's how it all came together. The qualifiers happened several months back now, I believe. That now leads us to tonight, what is going to be the 16-team tournament. And I really like the format of this event. I still don't think it's the absolute perfect format by any means, but I think it's arguably the best format that we've had all year, and that's why I kind of go back to. I really think that this has potential to be one of the better events, if not the best event that we've had all year. The format that they decided to go with is essentially, it's an 8-team double elimination bracket in each group. So, of course, it's going to be 2 groups in total, a Group A and a Group B. 8 teams in each group. They play double elimination. The top 4 teams, if I'm not mistaken, no, the top 3 teams, excuse me, advance on to then the playoff stage, where they'll then compete in a smaller a single elimination event to then ultimately determine the champion and who claims said prize pool. So this gives a lot of opportunity for these teams, and well, obviously being double elimination essentially gives them a couple of chances. Again, ultimately, I still like the idea of a group stage more like a Swiss or even a round-robin format to allow teams to play one another and give them the most chances possible. But because of scheduling and how they want to run the event, again, we've also seen much worse formats when it comes down to it. So I think they're definitely able to get away with this, especially being a minor, 16-team minor. We had that also at the Perfect World Masters. No, that was a 10-team minor. That's right. So yeah, I don't know if we've had a 16-team minor actually at so far this year. So it's again a lot of teams participating in it. The groups, we've already kind of previewed the groups in the previous recaps, so not to go too much into that again. But what we're looking at here, again, you look at Group A, it's going to be Secret versus Planet Dog, Complexity versus Fnatic, Vici Gaming versus VGJ Thunder, and SG Esports versus Virtus Pro. Now, these opening matches, they are just best-of-1 matches, so that's something to take into consideration. Being best of 1, there is that upset factor, in my opinion. I would still lean towards the more dominant teams, of course, such as a Secret and a Virtus Pro, but you never know what can happen when it's best of 1. Now, best of 1 only is for the first round. After that, it does go to best of 3 all throughout until we eventually have the 3 qualified teams. So best best-of-ones are happening tonight from both groups, from my understanding. You got Group A there, and then Group B, we're looking at Liquid versus Penta, Na'Vi versus Evil Geniuses, Mineski versus TNC, and LFY versus Newbie. So, as I mentioned in our initial preview of the group stages, I find it a little curious that they decided to match up the China teams together in the very first round of the event. I don't know, that feels a little off to me. Usually, excuse me, I am a little bit under the weather, so I do apologize. Clear my throat here. But whenever you have teams from the same region, ideally they're not playing against each other right off the bat. You know, but that's the great thing about these international competitions is that we get the chance to see how they fare against other teams. Now, ultimately, of course, they're going to be able to play against other teams no matter what the result is there, being a double elimination. So that's where it's maybe okay, it's fine in the end. But again, I personally, if I was one to be creating this event and determining, you know, who would play each other, how it all play out, ideally I would have it set up to where the China teams do not play each other in the first round. Have it spread out as much as possible when it comes to the teams playing other teams on an international level. Now, with that said, that is the case, and again, it is double elimination, so not necessarily the biggest deal in the world. The one other thing was that actually Mineski versus TNC, similar thing there. Of course, both from the Southeast Asian region. Why they're playing each other in the first round is kind of beyond me. There are 3 teams in total from Southeast Asia. Obviously, Fnatic, the other one, they're over there in Group A. But that's, again, kind of the other thing that I'm not a huge fan of. But double elimination, again, they'll get their chances. Okay, a couple of storylines, in my opinion, to look for going into tonight's event. Again, I don't want to spend too much time just breaking everything down, but a couple of storylines I think is worth mentioning. One being, how is Team Secret, the top team right now in the overall Dota 2 Pro circuit? How are they going to look after this first day especially? I've had a little bit of time off here, but looking to start or continue strong into the new year now at this ESL One Genting event. They match up against Planet Dog, of course, to kick it all off. Another storyline is Fnatic and their new squad, Universe specifically, how he's now in the offlane. This is now the new Fnatic team. I do not see this team making any more changes. Granted, again, especially being that we're pretty much at the end of the rope now with the roster changes here and what you're allowed to do. So this is the full new Fnatic roster. They're going to have a tough challenge against Complexity to kick it off, and then we'll see how they go from there. But we're going to get a really good idea of maybe what this new Fnatic team is about moving forward. Again, we've seen a little bit from their online play against Southeast Asian teams, but now they're really going to get the chance to prove themselves on that international level. Not that I'm expecting it to necessarily all, be great for them, but again, that's a curious storyline, and we'll see how it works for them. And one last thing out of Group A. Will we see a possible upset? SG Esports, a strong team out of South America, yet another an event they've qualified from that region. We've seen a couple of instances throughout this last year or so where a South American team has actually defeated another team in the first round, most noticeably Kiev Major last year, of course, in that first round. SG Esports, in fact, took out Team Secret at the time, 2-1. This is a best out of 1 as well. Now, again, that was single elimination. This is double elimination at least. But being a best of 1, I really think you got to keep an eye on SG Esports and the possibility being there of maybe catching a Virtus Pro off guard, perhaps. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I do think it's worth looking out for as far as Group A is concerned. Over in Group B, once again, Liquid, big powerhouse team. How are they going to look now, essentially their first matches in the new year? A team similar to like a Secret and even a Virtus Pro. They do not really play a lot of online matches lately. For the obvious reason, they're getting invited to these events, so taking that into consideration as well. Who knows what to expect from them? Evil Geniuses versus Na'Vi. That feels like just such a classic matchup. Obviously, so much has changed when it comes to these two teams, but I think EG is definitely a team to look out for, again, storyline specifically, with their new roster. No longer having Universe, now picking up Arteezy, now picking up Misery. Arteezy, more so Samael moving to the offlane. You got Fear taking over mid as a result. So, again, they're swapping things around. Yes, they overall did decent at the Galaxy Battles. They lost in the Grand Finals, though, 3-0 to VGJ Thunder, of course. How will they rebound now in a, frankly, much more serious event that is the ESL One Genting? I think they have a lot to prove, and they're going to kick off against Na'Vi off the bat there. It's unfortunate that they're not in the same group as Fnatic. I know a lot of people, including myself, would have loved to see that possible matchup of Universe versus its old squad. Not going to be the case, though. Maybe they'll meet up in the playoffs if both of them happen to advance on, of course. And then the last thing I think is worth mentioning in a storyline is LFY, their new roster, specifically OP. Again, him and Super swap teams now going into this event. Super now a part of Invictus Gaming for the time being. OP joining LFY. Again, they're calling it a temporary swap. Or trial, I guess is a better word for it, where it could be a possible eventual, this is a permanent move, and I think it's safe to say, depending on how this event goes, will help determine that for LFY specifically, on whether or not they look to keep OP. I've always been a fan of OP. I think he's a fantastic mid player, and obviously going to be a tough challenge right off the bat against Newbie, a team that they definitely know, however, from the China region. So those are kind of the storylines and what to look out for here of the ESL One Genting event. As far as my predictions are concerned, I think it's always fun to do. For Group A, we'll get to see which two teams move on to the winter finals. I am going to go with Secret as well as Virtus Pro, the obvious teams right there in my opinion. I don't see a reason why that wouldn't be the case. I think that those two are definitely getting to the winter finals. In the losers bracket, I don't know if they play. They will be playing. We will see teams eliminated actually, at least from the first round over here. As far as the teams that are potentially eliminated, I think Planet Dog and SG Esports are no doubt the teams to look out for being eliminated after the first day. Over in Group B, we have definitely leaning towards Team Liquid, of course, and I'm gonna go with Newbie. I'm gonna go with Newbie. Again, these are not the most radical predictions, I know. Now, actually, they don't even play until tomorrow in the semifinals, so I guess just advancing on to the semifinals. A Liquid, a Newbie. I'm gonna go with Na'Vi in the best of one right there, and then I'll lean towards TNC coming off a frankly disappointing performance at the Galaxy Battles over in Mineski, though. Seems like that they do good against their brethren in Southeast Asia. And then the loser bracket, the Group B loser bracket, they did not play until the following day. So there you go. Those are the predictions on what to expect going into tonight's matches, and we'll see how it all plays out once again. A very exciting event. The talent's great. The production, I'm sure, is going to be fantastic. Obviously, the one big thing is that it will be on Facebook live stream. That's going to be the official. So, frankly, I'm not exactly sure where to find it. It's going to be somewhere on Facebook. I'm sure it will be pretty easy in the end, but again, I'm not 100% sure. Something tells me, and possibly myself, I am thinking about casting some matches on Twitch as a result of them not doing so. Again, it's going to determine what the reaction's like ultimately. And in my personal situation, as much as I would love to do my own casting on my own channel and everything, and I know Valve has technically said it's okay to do that, somebody in my case where I'm trying to get more events to cast for and everything, I also don't want to step on shoes, as the saying goes. So we'll kind of see how that plays out, see what kind of coverage there is on Twitch for those that are more interested in watching on Twitch. But again, especially if I'm not casting on Twitch, I will be watching on Facebook, and I look forward to it. All right, so that's the preview. A couple of other things to go over here before we wrap up for the daily recap. The ESL One Katowice event, the qualifiers for this, of course, the major that is going to be in Katowice. When is it going to be? In later February, actually. It is coming up here. Again, they announced the NA Last Chance event, and we talked about this, how the seeding seemed way off, specifically with Animal Planet given a Tier 2 invite. And on top of that, Optic Gaming was essentially seeded number 4 in the seedings here for these NA teams, which was just absurd in my opinion. So it's set up Optic versus Animal Planet in a quarterfinal matchup right off the bat, which just felt very off because frankly those two teams are arguably the two teams that should be competing ultimately for this spot. And again, this is coming off the drama, the backbone of what happened with the scheduling conflict where those teams ended up getting forfeit losses because of other qualifiers going on. After all that said and done, apparently Immortals announced that they are withdrawing from this event. Again, Immortals is going through some roster changes themselves. QO announcing that he's taking a break. MSS as a new 3-player. I still feel like Immortals is trying to really figure themselves out. And honestly, I'm wondering if they're even going to continue to be a team because they have been having a couple situations where they've been pulling out of these qualifiers. So I'm curious to see where that goes. Now, with that said, they pulled out of these qualifiers And so it did kind of swap things around with the seating, apparently, which now makes it a lot more appropriate. Now I think if these were the brackets from the beginning, I don't think anyone would have had any issue, and definitely I would not have. So ESL continues to be a case of like one good decision, then one just what were they thinking decision, and they're dealing with a little bit of drama here, but ultimately it is a second chance for these teams, so it's definitely good for them. And the possibility of something like an Animal Planet Optic Gaming Finals is very real now with how it's shaped up. Not guaranteed. VGJ Storm, especially, is a team that that could make it as well. But those three teams, I think, are the teams to look out for. I can't see any other team making it to the finals, let alone winning these qualifiers, frankly. So that's what you got with the ESL One Catawise. And then one last piece of news. This was a little bit surprising to hear. I found it on Reddit as I was going to record today's daily recap. So this is according to ESPN, the esports section. SK as well as Virtus Pro parent company S-Force, or ES-Force, I guess, acquired for $150 million. So they were actually acquired by what's known as where is it? Or Mail.ru is a huge organization specifically in the CIS region that does very well for themselves, to say the least. And again, they apparently, according to the information, they just purchased the overseeing organizations that see teams like SK and Virtus Pro for $150 million. So, you know, pretty big news. Obviously, even more money invested into the esports world in general, which is, I think, just good for everyone. Another huge organization, specifically in the CIS region, getting involved. I don't necessarily see how this could be a bad thing, at least off the bat right here, without knowing too much on Mail.ru specifically. But from what I could tell, you know, a very successful company over in Russia specifically. So, anyways, I figured that was worth pointing out as well. Not that we should expect that to change too much for Virtus Pro specifically. But in the end, that's what's going on. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for our daily recap. What is January 22nd, 2018. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We'll see you next time.